Hello everybody, my name is Joshua and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we'll discuss books both new and old. I'll share with you pictures of my cats who'll make you wish they were your cats, and I'll drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. I'm back with another weekly wrap-up, trying to catch up on these things, so that's why it's kind of early. If you did not see my last wrap-up video, basically I don't have a wrap-up for the first week of the year because I was really sick and did not finish a single book. But that's okay, I have more than made up for it in the week from January 7th to the 13th by reading 7 books. So we're going to talk about those. It has been a really great start to the year, in fact. I set myself up, first book of the year, with one that I knew would be a knockout. And after that, it's been luck, pretty much. So, yeah, let's just go on and get into the books. So, first book of the year, I was trying to set myself up for success, so I picked Stephen King's Salem's Lot, which is a reread for me, but one that I haven't read in a very long time. It's probably a 4.5 star. I don't know that it's quite 5 star because there are just a couple things in there, a couple sticking points that kind of stopped me in my tracks for a second there and deterred away from the enjoyment just a little bit. But that said, still a fantastic book. If you're a fan of vampires and haven't read Salem's Lot, you really need to do so. It's a great book. It's just good, classic King. So really nothing else to say there. Well worth picking up if you're a fan of vampires, or you're looking for, well, for some older King that will scratch the itch that some of his newer stuff isn't scratching for some people. Next up was another book that I was given a review copy of from Booksprout. This is Chase Will with Mandated Smiles. Just put up a review on Goodreads of this a couple days ago, and this was a fantastic collection. One of those rare collections where it was like every story just worked for me, which is pretty impressive because I had an anthology like that at the very end of the year. I haven't heard of this guy before, but I will definitely be picking up his other work because he knows his way around short fiction, at least, if nothing else. In my review, I think I said basically, if you liked Juan Valencia's short story collection, Juan from Plagued by Visions, if you liked his short story collection, which honestly, who didn't, then you'll dig this one. It is not as eloquent as Juan's book, but it has a lot of the same kind of elements where Juan was able to build a story out of these everyday occurrences or just things that people don't think of. And Chase Will just did a phenomenal job here with it. So excellent, excellent collection. Check out my review on Goodreads and maybe that'll sell you on it as well. But fantastic, definitely be on the lookout for this guy. Next up was my first official Junji Ito with No Longer Human. This was originally a very short novel from Osamu Dazai that Junji Ito took here, turned into over 600 pages. And now I have not read the original. My sibling Shai has and loved it. This came from Shai, actually. Man, this this is hard to get through. It is very bleak, very depressing. Fantastic. I mean, just phenomenal read, but no happiness to be had. I mean, really, from page 1, you know that you're in for something that is really going to bring your mood down. If you're okay with that, if you are prepared for that and go in knowing that this book is going to mess with you, and maybe even put you in a bad headspace, then it's well worth picking up. I know some people can't handle those kinds of books, and that is perfectly fine, perfectly fair. I totally get it. But if you are someone that is okay with that, if you're okay with reading a tragedy, this is a fantastic one. It showed me just how talented this guy is. Next up was the only audiobook off this list. This is Clowns vs. Spiders by Jeff Strand. This was a 4-star read for me. I kind of bounced back and forth between 4 and 5 because really, I mean, it's classic Strand. The level of ridiculousness is definitely over the top at times, but a lot of his humor is genuinely funny as well, and he does such a great job of mixing it in, mixing that ludicrous humor in with genuine horror. It's just something that a lot of people cannot do, and Jeff Strand always delivers in that regard. Ultimately, I gave this 4 stars because some of the humor is just a bit too over the top for me and made me more roll my eyes than it did, get a chuckle out of me. And as someone that has read a lot of Jeff Strand, I don't think that this is one of his best works necessarily, although it is still a very, very enjoyable book. This is about a group of clowns that work at a circus. The circus owner comes to them one day and says, "Hey, look, people find clowns scary, so we are no longer going to have our clown show. Sorry, but you got to go find work elsewhere." And much to their dismay, they realize that the only place that is hiring clowns right now is this haunted attraction that is hiring scary clowns. And they do not want to be scary clowns. They want to make people laugh and smile and bring them joy. But for financial purposes, they're stuck being scary clowns. And at the same time, in this small town, a mine is opened up that had previously been closed off. And these giant spiders start emerging and causing chaos and destruction. So that's all going on. It kind of comes down to the clowns to try to save people because, again, these are good clowns. They want to help folks. So obviously this is one of those books where you know if it's for you or not. So if you think it is for you, you're probably going to dig it, and it'll probably get a pretty decent rating out of you. If you're a Jeff Strand fan, you know exactly what to expect, and you will enjoy this book. All right, next up was another book that I was given via Booksprout. This is Frank Lambert with Ghost Doors. And I also did another in-depth review on Goodreads of this one. This one intrigued me with the cover and the synopsis, and the fact that the main character is in a wheelchair. And there's not a lot of good representation for disabled characters or handicapped characters still. So that immediately caught my eye. I wanted to give it a try. This is for a younger audience, and I would argue that it should have been for an even younger audience. What I mean by that is that while I enjoyed many aspects of this book, my main problem is that the main characters are supposed to be 17 years old. Throughout the entirety of the book, I never once believed that they were 17 years old. If you had told me they were between the ages of 12 and 14, it would have made perfect sense. And I don't just mean, like they say some childish things. I mean all of their actions throughout the book would lead me to believe that these are tweens or barely teens. And I would go so far as to say that if that detail were changed in the book, if the age had been brought down by 3 to 5 years or so, then my rating would have been higher. But these characters were so unrealistic as near adults that I just couldn't look past it. That said, there are beautiful illustrations throughout this book. There are some really interesting components and a character or two that I really wanted to learn more about. I think it was targeted to the wrong audience. I think this should have been for a younger audience than what it is billed as. And if that was changed, and if there was just a little bit of editing done, then I think this could be a much better book than it is currently. But as it stands, 3 stars. It would be somewhat difficult for me to recommend this because I'm not sure who it would be right for as it currently stands. Next up was a short story collection. It is billed as science fiction, but there's definitely some fantasy in here as well. This is Larry Niven with Limits. And this one surprised me. It turned out to be much better than I thought it was going to be. I was kind of using it as a filler between books, was the intention. But I actually enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. Again, this is a 4-star, only because there were a handful of stories in this book that just didn't interest me whatsoever. So they were basically skipped, or I skimmed over them, whatever. But the ones that caught my attention really caught my attention and were just superb short stories. This is one that I could highly suggest you pick up if you were a science fiction fan, if you're a fantasy fan of the older stuff. Then this is a fantastic one. The caliber of writing is definitely there, which one should expect if you're at all familiar with the work of Larry Niven. And then the final book that I have to talk about is Craig DeLuy with Episode 13. This is the first that was in that collection of 50 books that I knew I wanted to get to this year. And this is the first one that kind of stuck out to me. This was described to me as found footage horror in a book format, and I could totally understand that. I could see where people would absolutely eat this up as an audiobook. The formatting is definitely different than your typical book. It's all set up as if it is a movie or TV show. There are basically journal entries, text messages between characters, or scenes set up in the way that a TV show would be. And this is about a show kind of losing its value in regards to views, so the producers are getting a little nervous. So therefore, for their 13th episode, they set something up where they get to go to this house that is probably one of the most well-documented haunted houses of all time. With the interesting thing being that no one has actually set foot in this place since the original events occurred. No one has investigated this place properly as investigators of hauntings, and these people are going to be the first. And as can be imagined, it doesn't take long for things in the house to ramp up, for tensions to rise, for internal strife in the group to get worse and worse, and things to explode and implode, along with the various strange happenings in the house. So this is it's about 450 pages, so it's not necessarily a short one, but because of the format, it goes by very quickly. And it's one of those books that'll just suck you in because the segments are so short. It's very easy to say, well, I'm just going to read one more, I'm just going to read one more, I'm just going to read one more. And then suddenly you're 80 more pages into the book, you know? So it's one of those books. This was another 5-star for me. Fantastic book. This is actually the first thing that I've read from Craig DeLuy. Definitely won't be the last thing. This was great. I was wondering how he was going to pull off this found footage style, because I've read a book or two that he's tried that I felt just failed spectacularly, and this coming from a guy that loves found footage horror. But Craig DeLuy definitely delivers on this one. This is a great one that certainly lived up to to the hype and to the word of mouth that I kept hearing about it. So fantastic book here. Definitely going to be looking for more from this gentleman here. And that covers the books that I read from January 7th through the 13th. Currently, I just started the Savage Report 1994. I mean, just started. I'm 5 or 10 pages in at the time of this filming. Very possible that I'll finish it well before this video goes up, though. But I'll say it's not looking promising. In the first 3 pages, we have 2 explosions, one main character that is like the epitome of every action hero ever, and no less than 3 major grammatical errors. So Paige may be getting her wish, and she may be seeing a rant review sooner rather than later. But I am going to finish it. I'm not going to DNF it. In fact, my intention is, with these 50 books that I said I have to read this year, I don't want to DNF any of them, no matter how bad they get. I said I was going to read them, so I am going to read every page of them. So we'll see how this goes. But after this, I have a feeling I'm going to need a palate cleanser. I'm going to need something that I know will be good. So I'm going to jump into Alex Woodrow's Whisperwood. And this sounds like a great book. The synopsis reads, Whisperwood is a small town deep in the woods that's not on any maps. Nobody goes there and nobody ever comes out. To Anna, Whisperwood is an opportunity, a haven, a place to hide from her violent, witch-hunting ex-lover. But once she arrives, Anna is prevented from leaving by folk magic she doesn't understand. An unwilling and unwelcome resident, she tries to fit in and lend a hand anywhere she can, but quickly finds that investigating the surrounding forest too closely could be the last thing she does. Because the only thing more dangerous than frightened villagers is what's waiting in the woods beyond them. And Anna is about to discover that the terrifying legends about the creatures in the forest don't come close to revealing their true hidden nature. So this is sort of a horror, dark fantasy that gets into folklore. Sounds like there may be some fae and fairies involved, which is always a great thing in my book. I am intrigued by the witch hunting ex, and more so intrigued because this is her first novel, so I have very high hopes for that one. I don't think it's going to let me down, so fingers crossed on that it will be a good one to get over what I'm sure is going to be the atrocity of the Savage Report 1994. As far as audiobooks, I am currently listening to Midnight in the Graveyard, which is an anthology of horror kind of centered around grave sites, around ghosts and ghoulies and other things that you would expect to find within that realm. This is a long one, but I should be done with it at the end of the week. And then my current ebook is A Fang to Remember by L. Brooke. And this is a cozy mystery that takes place in a town of vampires that again has some disability handicap representation, because our lead character, who is a vampire, she also suffers from a rather debilitating disease that basically puts her in constant pain, weakens her muscles, and forces her to, when she does walk with crutches, but she can't do so for long because it's just it's too much on her. And so therefore, partway through, she does get her wheelchair, and it's just the most exciting thing in the world for her, and it's so it's so heartwarming and enjoyable. I haven't read any cozy mysteries in a while. I'm about halfway into this one. Again, probably be done by the time this video goes up, but at the moment I'm about halfway and really enjoying it. It's just a nice change of pace from what I typically read, and it is definitely cozy. So that's where we're at. I would love to hear down below what you folks are currently reading. I am still looking for recommendations on books. I would love to be able to have a month this year where I just read books that were recommended from my subscribers and fellow booktubers, if I can get enough of them. So start leaving those in the comments if you have any recommendations. But I'm going to leave off here. I hope you all stay safe, have a great week, are reading something fantastic, and most importantly, enjoying some great coffee. Cheers.